Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 43 of the Corner Blue. Here we are again. We're back. We were hoping to record something after the match against the U.S. and Honduras, but we've been busy. We have busy lives. We have kids, but here we are.
Emphasis
making some time
on kids.
So big game coming up against Canada. The big surprise, the team that was out of the hexagonal, but they managed to get in the octagonal, and here they are in the first spot, unbeaten, probably the best team in CONCACAF right now. And we play them tomorrow in what could be our most crucial game so far in the octagonal. How are you feeling about tomorrow's game, Andres?
Hey, what's up, Hugo? What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining us once again here on the Corner Blue with another one. I'm excited, man. More than anything, just pumped up still from the win in San Pedro Sula. And my impression for this upcoming match is anything could happen, man. And I think that's the main thing that keeps it exciting as a fan, where, you know, with the way this team's been playing, with this round in general, how El Salvador plays, and historically, you know, when we're at home, I feel like we have the better odds of getting an interesting result, no matter who it is, whether it's Mexico, the U.S. El Cusca has been proven to be a hard stadium to win at. And yeah, Canada is riding a really positive wave right now. But considering how we played the first game against them and where those goals happen, those were correctable mistakes, and I'd like to see those mistakes handled and in a whole different ball game. So that's where I'm at. I'm excited, man. Anything can happen.
I'm drinking tea right now. Yep, tea. I'm a coffee drinker, but I decided to drink tea. So this is the classic, historic mug that my girlfriend back then, gifted me a few months after I started Select the Talent.
Nice.
So you can see the flag is kind of fading a little bit.
A little chipped.
With a quote that I had on my website.
Okay.
Porque el fútbol no es un deporte, es una religión.
TM,
no se lo tomen muy en serio. Ok, por favor.
You're going to piss some people off.
Esto es deporte, no religión. Yeah, it's going to be a big match. Probably the best Canadian team that I've seen since I've been following the national team. Yes, Canada has been a team that's been hard for us to beat, even though, yes, there is that 4-1 or 4-0 from
4-1.
4-1 from what, the 90s?
Yeah, 97.
97. Tomorrow's team is a completely different team. But like you said, Andres, El Cusca has been historically, it has been a very difficult venue for rivals. And we'll see how the stadium is with COVID restrictions. I don't think we have any restrictions in terms of sanctions from FIFA. I think the stadium is wide open. I haven't heard if the local authorities are limiting the number of people that can go into the stadium. I made a grave mistake of posting a tweet right after beating Honduras. I was very excited, and I posted about hay que topar el Cusca, and then I got a few responses from people saying that it was irresponsible due to the current situation. I decided to take the tweet down. It was just a couple of people, but one of those people is someone who tends to want to attack a lot and look for little things to attack. So I deleted that tweet.
Thirsty for some dirt on Select the Talent.
Yeah. So I deleted the tweet. I don't know. I mean, as long as people follow the local authorities' rules and regulations, I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, I
Everyone is
mean,
responsible for their own actions. Um, it would be beautiful to see a full stadium, and if that happens, hopefully people really take their precautions, use a mask. I can say keep your distance because that's going to be very difficult. But I'm hoping that at least, even if there's restrictions, that we can have the stadium 3/4 of its capacity. And this is the opportunity for the fans to really step it up, I think. And I'm saying this because I remember the match against Mexico. Seems like the fans were kind of silent, you know? I remember a
there are reasons
Mexican.
for it though. There are plenty of reasons, but keep going.
But I remember that was kind of interesting is that a Mexican journalist said that the fans were kind of going at it for like 4 hours prior to the game, that they were probably exhausted by the time the game started. I don't know if that was true,
But
but
that's every single time Mexico's there, like I
yeah,
think I think more than anything, uh what conditioned that match was the fact that El Salvador didn't have its prime 11. It didn't have the premier squad or all the starters there that you could have thought, you know what, we're here with all the pieces that we've been looking for. It's our time, and on top of that, Mexico played a team with a bunch of changes due to the rotations that they were putting in place. They knew that El Salvador was going to show up shorthanded in a sense, and I think that had a huge damper on not only the outcome of the game but the fans as well. Because I mean, I've been there and I've mentioned it. Went to a Mexico match during the Ruben Israel era, and they opened the stadium 5 hours before. And it
wow.
was just music, cumbias, el pájaro picón picón playing the whole time, beer flowing. You're just hanging, you're not tailgating, but you're just kicking it at the stadium for like 4 or 5 hours, drinking, eating. And then right when the game starts, at least for me, that's when things kind of settle down and then you can focus on the game and get into it. But you do get that adrenaline just because of the level of the event. And I think that was what had a huge damper, was we weren't showing up with our best squad. I think against Canada, albeit our chances are very slim, but we're alive. And more than anything, we kind of wanted to break down just the fact that, look, an achievement was unlocked in the sense that we hadn't beat Honduras away, or we hadn't beat anyone away. And at this level of the qualifying stages, I think since 1969, if I'm not mistaken, against Haiti. And granted, the Hexagonal has only existed until the 98 qualifying campaign to France. So, but before it was played sometimes in like even neutral spots and whatnot, but still beating Honduras away is huge. And I think for all the naysayers, the people that like to attack the team or just talk a lot of shit for no reason, they haven't stopped to think that, hey, how can you expect El Salvador to be in a World Cup or to be this, not to be this winning force within the area without question, when you can't even go to Honduras and get a win? I'm sorry, you can't have such high expectations. You must not be watching this team or know its history. You must be stuck watching whatever you watch on cable, this type of team, from Spain. Yes, I have a Barcelona sweater on, but still, I feel like people have this tunnel vision in terms of the history of this team, where it comes from, what it's working against, and where it could go. And they just like to talk this shit on social media. And I mean, I'm sorry, I find it entertaining more than anything. Like, after a win that's so significant, so special, whether we qualify or not, all the naysayers just thirsty, just scratching, trying to find anything negative to find an angle and kind of damper or take away from the win. So I found that funny where against the US, they're like, oh, we lost against the US, but 1-0, but that's the result they've been getting against everybody. It's not significant, blah, blah, blah. Okay. And then against Honduras, like, oh yeah, we won. It's not like we're qualifying, blah, blah, blah. So, okay, you sound like a casual fan that whenever you zone in or want to talk about the national team, it's just to talk shit. So that was interesting. But
Well,
let's focus on the positive.
There's people, I mean, just to kind of
to wrap that up.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting because I think it's a cultural thing. And I don't know if we've discussed this in the show, but a few months ago, I retweeted a little clip that was posted of Gerard Piqué in an interview in Spain, I think, in which, and I mean, just high level, I don't remember exactly word per word, but he was basically saying that for him, he finds it very difficult to understand that in Spain, when someone tries something and they fail, they basically go after that person and attack them and almost like make fun of that person for failing. It's almost like they were
get that from.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I connected the dots and I was like, well, that's very similar to what happens in El Salvador, where there is a sector of fans, not everyone, and I think the vast majority are not like that, but there's definitely a group of fans who want to see Hugo Perez process fail, who want to see the USL players fail, who are waiting to find something negative about the two subjects that I just mentioned. And it's interesting because going back to what Piqué said, in other cultures, and he mentions the American culture, United States of America, where here, the majority of people, when someone tries something and they fail, they keep encouraging them to try again. It's like it takes courage to try to embark on a new project.
Innovations looked on differently. Yeah.
Exactly. This is a big reason why the US is what it is in many ways, because of that culture. And I always said that I haven't done like an extensive research on this, but it's always been interesting to me when I see soccer, football, and how a lot of the ways in which the teams behave on the field is very similar to the way their cultures are. It's like the US has never won a World Cup, but they tend to do very well compared to other teams in CONCACAF, even like more than Mexico, who is a team that has everything they need to succeed. But when you see them play, it's like there's that mentality of it doesn't matter who you have in front of you, you still play the same. And for us, it's different because if we have a big team in front of us, it's like we feel like the underdogs. I think that's changing. I think Hugo Perez is changing that mentality, in which we talked about it in the last episode, where you are playing against a big team, and how can you get all of that and use it towards your advantage and use it as a motivation factor instead of looking down on you and saying, well, they have players in the EPL and the Bundesliga and La Liga, they're going to kill us. It's like, no, let's show them what we can do against those players. So going back to those comments, yes, I even saw a comment of someone saying, did you notice that we beat Honduras and none of the USL players played? I was like, seriously? Well, do you remember when we beat Panama and 3 or 4 of the USL players played? Do you remember when we played the Gold Cup with the USL players. It's interesting. So this is where I keep going back, where there is a sector waiting for this process to fail. And I find that very, very disappointing in a way. But going back to the win against Honduras, this could be a turning point. I mean, who knows if we're gonna get that fourth spot? I think it's difficult, but winning those games is very important. That's a motivation. That's momentum for the team. So I'm expecting a very good match tomorrow. I'm expecting the team to have that momentum from the last game against Honduras and bring that to El Cusca. And I wouldn't be surprised if we get a good result tomorrow.
Look, I think the match against Honduras, we see the birth of the new formation, something that Jerson hinted at previously chatting with us when we talked about game management. What can they tweak to fix some of the mistakes or some of the issues that were going on with the team that were evident early on, because they have been since the Gold Cup. And he mentioned, well, it would be nice to be able to switch to like a 3-5-2 or 5-3-2, but most of these guys haven't played in that formation, and we can't just bring it out all of a sudden because it's not going to work. That's not how it works. So it was refreshing. It was kind of cool when I saw that lineup. It was a surprise to see how many center backs were in there. And I think for a second I was like, wait, how many guys are we going to have in the back? Like, are we going to kind of park the bus? Or so for a second I was like, wait, what is this? But then I started, going down the line. Hugo, you and I started going down the line name by name and trying to decipher what was going to go on. And lo and behold, they throw out the 5-3-2, or that turned into a 3-5-2 with the two strikers on top, which was like, oh yes, finally something different. And we saw why the two strikers on top worked, at least in the first half. You saw that connection where instead of having that 9 or false 9 kind of running all over the place, or the 9 just being stagnant and being that pivot point so that the wingers could go down and try and make a center and whatnot, the attack was very much more connected, where you had Enrico behind the top two guys, and then with that midfield flooded, you'd recover the ball quicker, start that play, or start constructing in the mid, and then go on the attack and have at least 2-3 players close together to make something happen. Because we'd see way too many times where Hyder would go down the line, and then the 9 is either on the right side of the pitch, just entering the box, or the right winger is barely getting to the second post, and then he has no one to touch in the middle. He can't touch square if he wanted to, so he has to go with the central. And if it's on his weak foot, the central wasn't as good as you'd expect it to be. Or if he tried to take the defender on, he would run out of space to make a pass or a cross. So you saw something different with Bonilla, and it was he that got the start. He almost had that one opportunity, but it was refreshing to see all these pieces starting to connect, because up until this point, ladies and gentlemen, I feel our attack was very disjointed, being frontal or vertical. We could build out the back, but once we needed to get into that final third, it's like the ideas were running out because everyone was too disconnected, too disjointed. I don't know. Do you see something similar, or what do you think about that formation, that first 45?
Yeah, I mean, I like having the two players up, the two forwards, but I did see, at least in the first half, I did see that the team kind of struggled in the midfield.
First 15.
We didn't have the same control that we tend to have, and it's obvious we didn't have that midfield as populated as we normally do. And I think that Larin struggled a little bit with that going back and forth on the left side. It would have been nice to have a Nelson Blanco available, but we know that he's not an option. I'm not saying Larin did a bad job, but I think that playing in that formation requires a lot more from the wingers physically. And I think Larin struggled at first. He seemed a little lost, in which he wasn't really doing much of the defensive work that he normally does, and he wasn't really doing much of the offensive work that is expected from someone playing in that position. But it was nice when we were able to connect the pieces, and when the ball got to Enrico and he had two options wide open. I mean, even in that goal, I thought he was going to go for the shot, and knowing how well Enrico can shoot from far distance, that was an option too. But he made a good decision. But also Bonilla, I mean, yes, it was a nice pass from Enrico, nice assist, but the way Bonilla ended that play was, of a true number 9. And also the way Narciso steals the ball in the middle. I mean, that's one thing that Narciso does really well.
The transition was just
but he's like there, like biting, the players. He's on top of the players. Sometimes he kind of overdoes it with the fouls, I think, but I mean he's a very good player. But yes, I mean we saw the prior to the goal, Enrico had also given an assist to Gil, which he couldn't finish. But yes, when we managed to cross that midfield, we were more dangerous, with two players up front, with two options for that, for the number 10, to decide what to do. And, they also pulled the mark, so that opens up the space for someone like Enrico or Monterrosa or whoever plays to have an opportunity for a shot, because the defenders are no longer dealing with just one, but and two coming from the sides, but it's more like there's two guys there that are always there pulling. They need to have a mark, and that creates spaces. So I don't know if we're gonna play like that tomorrow. I think we might play a game more closer to what we did against Jamaica. That's my sense of it, because of Canada's a very fast team. They're very fast in transitions, but yeah, at least we know that there's choices, and that was the first game that the team got to play in that formation in a official match, at least, because I think they practiced that a lot in the camp that they did.
They had to have. I think the first 15 minutes, like you mentioned, were definitely rocky in the sense that we couldn't get a long possession. We couldn't get more than 3 passes together for the most part. And like you said, the fullbacks, because the Macas didn't have the best of games either in that first half. Larin and the Macas just seemed kind of, almost like not there. And that's what helped having that third center back too, to just anchor that part down while the fullbacks did their thing and got adjusted into the match. Then you saw the subs that came on to the second half, and that's where things got a little dicey, where it seemed like the team played more defensively, let Honduras attack. We couldn't get too many passes together either. It was a very high stress game, but just like it was high stress for La Selecta, I'd say up until like the 70th minute, when most of the subs come on and you get fresh legs. Once the clock starts ticking and Honduras is getting closer and closer to defeat, you could sense that sense of urgency or desperation on their part. And granted, they missed a whole bunch of opportunities. Mario Gonzalez had a great match, at least blocking shots. We'll talk about his performance in a little bit. But it helped so much to have Zavaleta and Ronald as the center backs holding things down. I think they were pivotal in terms of getting the result for this match. And it's that duo that I wish we could have had consistently throughout this campaign, that could have swayed some of the matches that we tied or lost in our favor. but it was great to see them there holding down the line and getting those crosses cleared. I think that was very, very impressive for me, at least, to see that the air attack wasn't something where you're biting your nails the whole time, as historically is with the Salvador, where any lame, soft little cross that you'd expect to get cleared could get past your center back, or the marking is off, and then boom, you get scored on. So,
especially against Honduras.
Yep.
I remember all the times that Carlos Pavon killed us like that. It was just like training grounds for him,
Yeah.
But
my first Selecta game, he scored 3 against La Selecta in 04 at Cusca. It was awful. Anyway.
Yeah, but yeah, Zavaleta was solid. He had a solid match, and yeah, he gives us that solid air game where, and I think the coaching staff knew that going in. I think they had really studied Honduras. They do that a lot. They send a lot of crosses, and they kept doing that even though they weren't really creating much. I mean, it was kind of like, there was a point in the game in which they sent like 3 or 4 crosses in the period of like 5-7 minutes. All of them were taken out by Zavaleta. So yeah, I think that was part of what the coaching staff did in preparation for that game. But the defenders did a really, really good job. Probably Vigil didn't have his strongest game. He made several mistakes, but overall, it was a good performance from the 3 center backs.
Mario Gonzalez had at least, I think it was 4 saves, and crucial ones, obviously. But I did notice that when it was his turn to, get to crosses, either punching them out or just securing the ball in the air, that's where he had kind of a lackluster effort. Hopefully he can improve on that, because it's going to be vital. We can't have the ball taking a bounce in the box after a weak cross or free kick or corner kick if Ronald and Zavaleta can't get to it. That was the only thing that did have me worried, where you did see some of that hesitation and then some mistakes happening. But overall, crucial saves. And it's awesome. If you on social media, you probably know this, but there were 4 players named to the best 11 for the match date, which, is something impressive. It's something that we rarely get to see our players in that limelight. Mario Gonzalez was one of them. El Chelón Zavaleta. Then we had Landaverde. No, Landaverde wasn't. Who was in the mid? Was it Seren that got it? Yeah, Seren got it. And then up top, Bonilla. So those 4 guys that column got selected for the best 11, which is awesome. I had that Freudian slip right there. I think Landaverde totally could have gotten it too. He had a great match. Once again, showing huge improvement, huge strides, where he's taking on 3 guys at the same time, keeping them guessing, letting the team have time to move up on the pitch while he's dribbling around, the catrachos. Awesome game from him. Unfortunately, due to accumulating yellow cards, he's not going to be able to play against Canada. But as we mentioned several times, in terms of personnel in the midfield, El Salvador has plenty to choose from. So I don't think it's going to be an issue. Granted, he will be missed, but there's someone always in the wings waiting to take a place on that pitch. So yeah, we'll see how this one goes, ladies and gentlemen. Shout out to everybody that was hitting us up and communicating with us during the match. There were plenty of you. Shout out to Javier Munoz on YouTube. He did have a question for Uro. Uro, you have background in organizing matches. Obviously, you've worked in football from the inside out. And his question is, how do other national teams compensate or pay their players? How do other federations handle that, or what do you know about that?
So this is something that I think I probably explained not here in the show, but technically the national teams are not obligated to pay players because it's not, the clubs who own the rights to those players are the ones responsible for paying them a salary. But I think every national team in the world has some type of incentive stipend that it's given to the players when they are part of the national team. I think they have a daily allowance usually the players get during the time that they're in camp or games, and then there's bonuses per game, and all those things that are discussed should be at least prior to any competition. From what I've heard from, I won't say names, but I know that the U.S. national team, when a player is called, they get money. They get a good amount of money,
like a stipend.
Yeah, like I don't know, $7,500. I'm just gonna throw a number out there for a camp. You get called to a friendly, you get a whole bunch of gear, and you get money for being in that camp. But keep in mind, you're probably talking about players who in their clubs are making a lot of money. They're making, I don't know, $10,000, $15,000 per week. I don't know.
That'd be nice.
So they are making a lot of money. So obviously, if they take some time off from their clubs, they also get compensated a lot, and their clubs still pay them. So I think it varies, but there's no from studying the FIFA rules. It's been a while. I try to keep up. I don't think there's anything in the FIFA book that says that national teams are obligated to pay the players while they're in concentration. Probably shouldn't use the word while they're in camp with their national team.
And then another part to his question was if you could explain about how players get selected to play for the main squad.
For the senior squad?
Yeah, or in general, which I guess you could break it down in the sense that it's all up to the coaching staff. If players are eligible, have the passport, right? And
yeah, so
how does it work with the association or federation if they're not dual nationals? Like if they're automatically eligible, is there a process or boom, you just
the dual nationals, first of all, everyone in order to play for a national team must have a passport. That's your ID to be able to represent a national team. Two parts. If you're born in the territory, you have a passport, you're good to go. If you're a dual national, or for example, let's not go too far back. Let's say someone who was born. Let's talk in the case of Enrico, for example, because that's the case for a lot of the players from the U.S. who've gone to El Salvador. You're born outside of El Salvador, but one of your parents is Salvadorian. You don't have your passport yet that says that you're Salvadorian, but the Salvadorian government, in the Constitution of El Salvador, it states that if a Salvadorian citizen born in the territory has a son or daughter outside of the territory, they are automatically entitled to having that nationality. So it's just a matter of doing a process. So basically, the father of the child goes to the consulate wherever they live, or the closest consulate, and they register their son or daughter as a son or daughter of a Salvadorian citizen. They fill out the paperwork. The parents must have a valid passport with a modern birth certificate. They don't take the original one anymore. So once the father, or if both parents are Salvadorian, both must have their documentation. They register their kids. Once they are registered, a birth certificate is generated in El Salvador for that person born in a different country. With that birth certificate, then they can apply for their passport, and they get their passport, and then they're eligible to represent a national team. That's the legality of it. If that player has represented another team at any level, youth level, senior level, then they once they have their passport indicating that they have the nationality of El Salvador, then if they previously played official matches for another team, then they must write a letter to FIFA asking for a change in association, which is something that you're only allowed to do one time in your lifetime. That was the case of Enrico because he had played for the Netherlands U15, U16. So once FIFA clears you, then the national team, the El Salvador, can call that player and use them up in a national team. So that's the process in terms of how the
Eligibility.
legal, the eligibility. And then the rest, I mean, for me, a scout usually, and it's different for everyone. I don't consider myself a traditional scout, but usually scout will scout a player, they will see a player, watch videos, and then they will write a report of that player, and then videos are sent to the coaches, or in this day and age, national teams, including El Salvador, has a subscription to Y Scout, which is a software that gives you analytics and video footage of players, most players around the world. And that's how they get to at least get a sense of what type of player they are. And then, if they are convinced, they maybe see them in person or maybe invite them to camp. And that's the way it works. So ultimately, it is the coach's decision to call a player. I've said this many times before, I don't recommend players. I mean, it could be seen that way sometimes, but I'm not going to recommend someone just because I like them personally or because they're my friends, or it just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't work that way. However, if I do see something special in a player, on top of making my initial report or letting the coaches know about a certain player, I would try my best to follow up and say, hey, this player is doing really well, and he played this weekend, scored a goal, or played this many minutes, and that's kind of like the way it goes. But currently, with the current staff, they are very good with technology, and as simple as it may sound, the national team has not always had a Y Scout type of software available for them. So now it's easier because I can just say, hey, there's this player playing in this country, and I already confirmed with them that they could be eligible. Then that triggers the process. And that's usually how it goes. If the player has a grandparent, the process is the same, but first the grandparent must register their son or daughter in the consulate, and then that son and daughter will register their son and daughter, and then get the passport. But there's one thing that's, I think by now a lot of people know, but not everyone does. Having the passport and the nationality does not make you eligible to represent a country automatically. FIFA clearly states that in order to be eligible, your biological grandparent or parent must be born in the territory. Why do I say that? I say that because so from Ghana, I don't know, I just been thinking a lot about African players lately, goes to El Salvador, they play for FAS. They do really well. And then some diputado decides to, naturalize them. They don't qualify. They may have their passport, their DUI, their everything, but they don't qualify because those are not considered citizens by
They have
birth.
to be 5 years in the country, right? And then they could be.
It has changed a lot. Yes, 5 years is it's usually the best way to put it, but now they clarify a little bit more the rule where it's less if they arrive at a young age. If they arrive before turning 18, I think. I think it's just 2 years. And then if after 18, then it's 5 years in which they have to live in the country. So the rules have changed a lot, but that's usually how the process goes.
All right. Well, there you have it. Javier Munoz, thanks for the question. And that's it in a nutshell when it comes to eligibility and how that works and how players get paid. So thanks, Urul. And then moving along, this Canada match, obviously we're excited about. What happens if La Selecta were not to get the result it needs? Well, that would equal basically kind of being out of the run at that point, too many losses at home. Urul, what do you think might be the ramifications if they don't get those points? How could this impact the Hugoneta?
Well, I think that nothing should impact the process. I think the process has been clearly stated from day one that is 2026. It's great that we managed to be where we are now in the octagonal for Qatar, and every team there when we started, everyone in there competes for hopes and dreams of qualifying, and that's what we've been doing as a national team. But I think that despite of regardless of what happens tomorrow, yes, there's going to be sadness, it's natural, but regardless of the result tomorrow, I think we shouldn't forget that our goal is 2026, that if we want to do something different, if we want to increase our possibilities of ever being in the World Cup, we need to do different things. And that word different is used many times. Oh yeah, let's do something different. This is a different player. Doing something different means let's not do what we've done historically, where a qualifier ends, the coach is fired, then we don't have a coach, or we go through several coaches, and then another coach is hired 6 months prior to the next qualifier. No, we need to
each round as the team moves forward.
So going back to what I was saying, we need to focus on 2026, use the remainder of the games, the 3 games that we have left, as top level practice games, top level friendlies for our players to gain that experience. I think that, and you touched on this a little bit, Andres, earlier, where it's hard to understand when the fans, everyone gets disappointed, everyone wants to win, but I think that it would be good if us as fans, if we could remember where we were a year and a half ago, or 2 years ago, or 30 years ago, or 40. We haven't been to a World Cup in a long time. So it's not like we're going to go to a World Cup because Hugo Perez has been working with the team for 6 months. I mean, just the fact that we're in the final stage of a World Cup, for me at least, it's a win, because we haven't been in the last 2. So if you want your team or your national country to have more possibilities of qualifying to a World Cup, you must consistently be participating in those final rounds. And that has not been the case for us.
Yeah, to piggyback off of that, what made me really happy with the win against Honduras was just the fact, like you mentioned, the two previous processes didn't make it to that stage of qualifying, and we all know why. Which was unfortunate because you had a generation of players that basically all the responsibility of qualifying or carrying Salvadoran soccer was basically thrown on them with what happened with the cheaters. And we're talking about that 2012 U23s. Automatically, all those guys all of a sudden are bumped up to the first team because there is no first team anymore. And you have to give these guys credit, especially the survivors of those processes on this team, the veterans, Seren, Darin, Bonilla. And you got to give them credit because not all of their counterparts were able to make it to this instance. There were a lot more involved, but that process was cut once De Los Cobos was out of the picture, which, for a lot of those players, I think was unfortunate, obviously. But I give that generation a lot of credit considering that they had to you know, carry the country on their backs amidst that scandal. Your Russos, your Jaimes, and they had to play through all that. They had to play through all that scrutiny. They absorbed basically all the negative energy put out there by the amañadores because they were the only ones that could suit up and play for us. So it's not like the amañadores ever had their day at Cusca for everyone to say and yell what they needed to. No, it was these guys that didn't, that weren't found of doing anything wrong or were in the U23s, weren't a part of the first team. They moved up and they were the ones that bared that burden, that the brunt of everything. So when I saw Bonilla and Seren score and get this team moving ahead, I felt very happy for them. I couldn't imagine what that level of vindication must feel like, considering all the hardships they've had to deal with domestically, considering that they're the players that have done well abroad. Even in the midst of the storm of the Manos, these guys were able to pull off pretty incredible careers abroad, which was a rarity coming out of the Manos. So I was very happy for that subplot or that story moving through. Because I remember when Bonilla first was called up with Hugo Perez in the Battle Royale phase and how he struggled to score. And you could see it in the guy's face, just what the is happening, Just clear shots on goal, ample opportunities. He was the one receiving all these passes in the box just to tap it in, and they weren't going in, and you could just see the frustration on his face. And it lasted months. COVID was in the middle of it, injuries. He's handled the pressure in different ways. I mentioned on the show, sometimes well, sometimes in ways that I don't necessarily agree or think that they helped him. But it was cool to see that vindication for both of them. So congrats to them, because a lot of us have been skeptical of Seren due to some of the timely mistakes he's had throughout the last couple of months and even into the second to last Gold Cup. And for him to go from those mistakes against Honduras and we lose 4-0 in 2019 to getting that goal just to seal the last nail in the coffin for Honduras, that was very exciting, and I feel very happy for him. And a lot of people have been mentioning how he shut a lot of people up, and they've been able to admit that. And I've been skeptical of his play at times, so it was great to see him come up with that goal. I think we're gonna wrap it up shortly because we want you guys to be able to listen to this while you're getting ready for the game. And I think we'll try and come up with one more episode after the Canada match. If we win, it'll be a lot sooner than later. But again, it's been a lot of fun being able to connect with all you guys throughout this qualifying window. I'm going to take time to shout out people really quick, especially Rigo Jr. 86. who said that he's happy for Will Perez with the deserved win. His work is starting to show slowly. And he asked for this shout out. So that's why we're following through with this. He says he listens to the podcast all the way in Dallas with this Tia Rosa Meltroso. No, I'm just kidding. You guys heard that sound bite before, right? Anyway. And then who else? Shout out to Edwin Argueta, El Brian 209, Yosimar. Shout out to Saba Flocka. Honey Nut Bootiel is the best name you'll find on Twitter. He's out there in the homeland. He's gonna check out the match. Enjoy it, bro. I hope you have a lot of fun. Just pace yourself, those 4 or 5 hours, you got to make it to the finish line. So just pace yourself. You'll be ready for the starting whistle and you're good. If si se te baja para esa instancia, you're all good. But in any case, I think we'll wrap that up. Hugo, what's the thing you're most excited about the match tomorrow? What is it? Getting those 3 points? Is it tying? Is it just another solid performance against one of the top 3 in the area? What is it that you're keen on or you're excited for?
A solid performance and 3 points. That's we need them. I think it'll be nice to end this round of 3 games with a victory against the only unbeaten team in CONCACAF. It'll be great. To me, that would be an amazing way to end it. And if we cannot get a solid performance, the 3 points, I'll take the 3 points any day.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I mean, Canada's been pretty much a killjoy for the rest of CONCACAF up until now. Yes, they qualified to the World Cup in '86, but we know that soccer isn't the main sport in Canada, and they've been a thorn in many countries' sides as they've been improving these last few years, whether it was at Gold Cup, getting these hard-nosed results against some of the weaker teams physically, just kind of being what the US was, 80s, 90s, just a killjoy for soccer nations as the US would find its own identity. And in the meantime, just kill people's dreams and aspirations in soccer nations, And you see this improvement in Canada. Good for them. There was a whole CONCACAF situation where El Salvador got screwed. It's led to different things. We can't harp on it. They're in the final round. They've proven that they deservedly are. It's crazy how much their programs improved within, I'd say, since 2019, how they've turned things around. It almost seems like it was spearheaded at least by Alphonso Davies being a part of the Canadian national team and then being signed to Europe. Because at first it was like Davies plus 10. Now you're starting to see more names in the mix, more names rise in infamy or fame, whatever you want to call it. But I think it's time that El Salvador kind of settles things, especially with the 0-3 away, where it was on us. We made these mistakes that ended up costing us, and it's time to show them up at home. I think everyone in general has been surprised by their level, and that's part of the reason why they've gone undefeated, throughout all these games, is teams are starting to get to know them beyond just the scouting report. But I think it's Salvador's seen enough of them, whether it's playing in Gold Cup or the game away. But it's time to get those 3 points. I'm sorry, they're not the US, they're not Mexico, and we need to remember that and just take it to them. Good for them, they're at this level. But I'm sorry, look at the head-to-head, just go for it. Yeah, that has to be the mentality. We have to go out and win. And anything can happen. Anything can happen, but there's a reason why we're still fans, throughout all of this. It's going to
be a beautiful game.
Yeah.
One factor that we haven't mentioned that it's critical is that if Canada wins tomorrow, they qualify to the World Cup, basically. So
we're out.
They're not going to go. They're going to take this game very, very seriously. I mean, it's also their opportunity to make history. So I think El Salvador is also going to encounter a rival unlike anything else we've seen, because when we played the big teams in the Cuscatlan, big teams, I'm talking USA, Mexico, usually the teams that fill that stadium when we play against them, the games are usually like at the beginning of the rounds or someone is already out. And in this case, we need the win to stay alive. If they win, they go to the World Cup.
Yeah,
it's gonna be a really good game.
Well, there you have it. Enjoy tomorrow. Enjoy the game, whether it's surrounded by your family or in a dark room by yourself. I'll probably have 2 TVs going at the same time just to watch other results. And yeah, let's hope for the best. Hopefully when we get back from that match and we record next time, it's to report on or break down a win. Regardless, we are still alive right now. It's been stressful, right? It's been upsetting, especially with some of those points being dropped at home under circumstances or games that you kind of walk away feeling like La Selecta could have had that, and those 4 points would have had us smack in the middle of that fight for the 4th slot at least. Things didn't necessarily go our way, but that's sports for you. That's soccer for you. The unpredictability of it, and also the redemption factor, whether it's tomorrow or 3 years down the line, 2 years down the line, that has yet to be seen. We saw Darwin get his moment of vindication. We don't know when this team will get it as a whole, but considering we unlocked that achievement, it was that injection of life and juice that this team needs when they're going in against the biggest foe of the area for now. But I kind of want to take back on that hype, because this team is definitely hyped a lot. It's Canada, so let's handle them. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll catch you guys next time on the Corner Blue. Please like, subscribe, follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. Let's get to 500 followers on Twitter. Let's go. We're almost there. We're at like 481. Spread the word, guys and ladies and anyone in between, but spread the word. Let's keep this going, especially with all the excitement around the team. We definitely appreciate the following, all the OG listeners, the new listeners, and thanks a lot once again. We'll see you next time.